Now we are. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Beth, do you see what we're looking?
Yeah, I do. So welcome everybody to our little session for NAMTech. We're so excited to be asked to do this presentation for you today. We're really talking about remote learning, and we're thinking about giving you some resources, giving you some things to think about, and also addressing even that, I don't know so much about middle school, but addressing that special education, special populations issue and concern as well. So I'm Beth Kabes, and I'm from Nebraska. I'm a former board member and was an officer for NAMTech. So did a number of years in the leadership role. And I recently retired in December of last year. So I have been doing some odd jobs, working with different organizations. And Jeff, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Again, I had 41 years in education, 22 in the classroom, instructional technology coach, director of curriculum instruction for instructional technology at the district. And then for the last 10 years, I've been working, was working at a service agency in Pennsylvania. They're called Intermediate Units, as a program administrator in the Office of Professional Development, developing programs for instructional technology, hybrid learning, blended learning, personalized learning, and then helping districts maneuver the minefield of setting up academies for online learning for their students, or providing online learning services to districts that didn't want to set up their own academies. I retired recently, and well, it's not recently anymore. It's July a year ago, and then I moved into just saying, okay, what am I going to do with myself? And so I took a job working for Rosen Publishing for a while, and when COVID hit, of course, everybody got furloughed, and so then Jeff Craven, who knew me, reached out to me because one of the BOCES up in New York was looking to work with some online learning. And so he suggested, hey, do I know Beth? And I said, of course I know Beth through NAMTech. Been a part of NAMTech and AESA for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and was a board member for NAMTech for Pennsylvania for a while. And so Beth and I have kind of started to do a little bit of work together, which I think we'll share a little bit later.
Yes. So I am entering a link to a form, and I guess I didn't double check. Is that form open for everyone? Jeff, making sure that we allowed for others to get to the form. But this is our crowdsourcing form. We know that you're experts here, and because you guys are in the trenches, you probably have great ideas. Well, not probably, I know that you have some terrific ideas. So as we're working through our session today, would love for you to take some time, just take some multitasking time, and submit some information from your thoughts, or from where you're at and from what you've been doing. But yes, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if anybody can't get in, just let me know.
Yeah,
I think you may have to put that in the chat window.
I did. I put a link there. Is it not showing up?
I got it.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So, yeah, so we want to just collect some data, and we'll be talking about that data later on in our slide deck, but I wanted to give you enough time to submit your thoughts and some of your ideas or strategies that has been working for you in your role as a agency leader across the state and part of NAMTech. So, in thinking about that and what we were wanting to present today, because Jeff and I have been out of the trenches of education, we've been working together, doing some sharing, some collaboration. I've been doing some work for AESA also, And so our thoughts today were that we wanted to bring you some resources that perhaps you may have either not been, privy to, hasn't, come across your desk or whatever. That's our intention anyway, that we've been able to collect or curate some resources that could be informational to you. So in looking at, go ahead, your slide behind me there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Rothberger. Next slide. So to start with, I was doing some research with one of my favorites, AJ Giuliani. Go ahead, you're too far. There you go. I listened to a webinar with Thomas Murray, and if you guys have had a chance to listen to that, sorry, excuse me, but Thomas is promoting his new book, Personal and Authentic, and their webinar was outstanding. So you should be able to go find that on AJ's website. But one of the things that AJ did was to collect data, just like what we're asking you to do, on strategies and structures that was working. And what he's collected is over 500 thoughts or ideas from classroom teachers across the world. Right there, I think there was some people from, Hong Kong, right? So these are structures and ideas, and he's broken them down into K2, 3.5, 6.8, and 9.12. So you can, narrow your search, if you will, to just scroll through some of those strategies that teachers have been using during this time of pandemic that have been successful. I was trying to figure out how I could present that and put it into not a chart, but a way to display it. And it's really, and maybe you guys can come up with that idea, but I wasn't able to develop that. But I still think that the ideas that are available here can really help us just kind of do some brainstorming or doing some thinking for our schools and our districts. Again, these are things that have been successful in classrooms worldwide. So I don't know if you guys had been able to view that or had seen that from AJ Giuliani. Okay, share, I was able to access through the chat. Okay, so Sarah, what link are you referring to? Are you referring to the form or our slide deck, or what were you, can you give me more information? Thanks, Danielle. It's good to hear from you. So again, the one that you're showing right now. Okay, so let me go grab that, and I'll just put that in the chat. And this, I believe, is my copy of it. So it's not, I think, but I could be wrong. I made a copy of it because, as I was saying, I was trying to organize it so that I could present it in some kind of, fashion that would be chartish, like a chart, and I just couldn't figure it out. So anyway, so that should be a link to that information from AJ Giuliani. In addition, we'll give you our link to our presentation today, which includes all of this, all of the information, all the links, so that you can look at them in your leisure. So I thought that was, some good information or things that we can look through and see. Obviously, a number of, choice boards. I think all of you have been using choice boards, and but gives you some other thought around how to specifically do that, perhaps. So,
and
go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
One of the things I'll jump in here with it. If you're not familiar with AJ Giuliani, I actually worked with him. He's a Pennsylvania native, and he used to work at the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit at one time with us. And so, he's been a friend of mine for a while. And again, he's really, he's turning into really kind of a national speaker as well. So he has a book out, as well as a lot of his resources. So he's very, very involved with instructional technology and helping students become, and students and teachers become more engaged in the instructional learning program.
Great. So another contact that we've had, the next slide, Jeff, is Nithy Thomas from the Learning Accelerator. And she presented for us for our NAMTech National or Leadership Summit. And Nithi was working on for a little while and shared this with us recently, the Always Ready for Learning. So she has collected these resources over, I would say, close to 2 years, maybe not completely, but close to 2 years, and has put them then in this awesome table display. And I'm entering the link to that in the chat. So you can search through these resources either by a topic, if you wanted to do a keyword search, and Jeff and I did some practicing, and Jeff was struggling that he couldn't find something because his keyword was a little too specific. And so you might want to widen out your keyword. But what I would just do is select a topic perhaps, or maybe even a model. But these are some of the resources from all over the nation, and they could be some international as well, but about protocols, about policy, about good practice or good best practice for remote and online learning. So just a wide range of resources that she's collected and categorized based on her reading and studying the resources. So this again is vetted through the Learning Accelerator. So I feel confident that all of the content here is high quality. And then, the Highlander, Edutopia. So these are things that we, as professionals normally scan through or read some of these resources anyway, but they're categorized. So if we're looking something, specifically on some policy or some procedure or a district level piece, I would suggest going and looking at this resource also. And in the slide deck, it also includes the link to the data, right? To all of the resources. So categorized using Monday.com, categorized in those groups. And so you might have an opportunity just to look through those. But again, Nithi Thomas, one of our connections with NAMTech was working on this for the Learning Accelerator, which I thought was valuable and great resource. So one of the big buzzwords that I've been hearing is humanizing our classroom, right? And because we're in this one-dimensional, virtual classroom, how do we bring that relationship? How do we bring that humanization towards our schools and towards our students? And Dave Stewart is somebody I just started following and reading some of the content and following some of the webinars. And I guess I felt confident in the words and what he is sharing in his, website, I guess, that it makes sense to me about what he is sharing about that humanization. Again, this is a buzzword, right? So many, some of our leaders and so much are talking about, our writers are talking about that humanization. But anyway, so he's kind of developed these grounding principles. Human beings are mostly hidden, he said. That's our first principle. And we are invisible creatures, but in the sense that we have bodies which are visible, but our bodies are only functioning or only a fraction of what our human is. So we're trying to trying to think about, our mental capacity and our mental health and our social and emotional learning. And all of this is wrapped around that humanization thing. So here is a link that you can access in our slide deck, that you can do some reading or you can do some research on Dave Stewart. And again, I know there's others that are doing some of that work. We were just trying to find some of those resources that maybe you haven't even been around. So, link to the slides, Peg, not yet. We'll give that at the end of the session. I will give you though a link to a slide deck, or excuse me, a link to a form that we're looking for you to complete, because we know that you are the experts. And so this is just a collection that we're trying to add. Actually, Jeff Craven, could you add that again? the link that at the very beginning that you added. So going on.
Well, Beth, before we go on to the other thing too, just to answer some people's questions, if they're, we're throwing a lot of links at you, and we're throwing a lot of procedures for, our, how do you get back into that, modality of online, in face, or whether it's virtual or blended. At the end, we're going to also, I'll take you out to a site that we've been starting to work on, Beth and I have been starting to work on, that has all of the links on it as well as more too. And we're going to be looking to take what you give us to add to that resource additionally. So again, we're all in this together. We're looking to try to build a collaborative environment where we can all be working together and trying to go through this. And I'll turn it back to Beth because she's got these first couple slides here going on, and this is an amazing place. This is an amazing one.
So our friends at AESA, right, were called co-collaborators on this document. So a back to school plan rubric with collaborators of ClassLink, of AASA, COSIN, and CETA. And again, NAMTAC has been affiliate members of COSIN and CETA in the past. So all of those work together to build this rubric around, back to school. And what Jeff Rothenberger and I have kind of reviewed is that, again, this is broken into different segments, right, or sections that could be considered policy, could be considered teaching and learning, those kinds of things. And but what I really like is that the rubric gives me indicators. So am I really beginning? Is this really where I'm at because my goals are reflecting the previous district long-term goals? Or am I in that improving column, right? So have I advanced to a higher level, a deeper level? So that's one of the things I like about this, but it gives you a continuous learning rubric. It gives you a back to school rubric, which we're looking at, and then different areas. So the back to school rubric, the areas include leadership and policy, which we're just kind of looking at an overview. It includes operations, assessment and equity, instruction, and that's it. So this is a pretty intensive, it's a Google Doc or Google Sheet document that that we've been impressed with in terms of how do you figure out where you're at and then determine what you can do to get to that next level.
And again, as a service agency, one of the things that you're going to be doing, is going in and working with your districts and your schools to try to help them move forward. And so again, one of the things that we like to do is to find out where are you, what is your need, where are you, and how can we help you move forward. And until they can articulate the where they are in each step of this, it's very difficult for us to come back and say, well, this is what we think you need to do. But if they can come in and they can do this rubric real quick, or you do this rubric with your districts and say, okay, let's find out exactly where you think you are. It gives you a real foundation for being able to have that conversation.
Very good, thank you. So we have mentioned social emotional learning, and CASEL is one of those organizations that's really started to do a lot, well, maybe not started, but to promote and share those resources about, how are we making sure that our students are doing well in terms of their mental health. In addition, not only our students, but our teachers, right? Because I think Jeff Craven was talking at the very beginning that our teachers are finding themselves to be under such great level of stress. So how can we help support the teachers in this, remote learning situation also? So again, this is a white paper that came through AESA that is from CASEL on social emotional learning, and a roadmap, right? A roadmap to reopening schools. And maybe you've been able to see some of these resources again. These are just some things that Jeff and I talked about, that what we saw just in our, our work that maybe you were not able to come across just because of your time and what you've had to do in the last few months. but things included in this white paper are taking time to cultivate and deepen those relationships and build partnerships and plan for that social and emotional learning. So, you know, I've always been an advocate of building those relationships with your students, your teacher to student, and your student to student. And obviously it becomes even more difficult in this environment of online learning. So there are some suggestions of how to do that in this particular white paper. Another one would be designing opportunities where adults can connect, heal, and build their capacity to support those students. So I really felt that this document, this white paper spotted a lot of our concerns and what we hear that are both of our teachers and our students and our parents are saying about our remote or, you know, distance learning, if you will. So I think that might be something of value to you to just kind of skim through and read through to get some thoughts and some ideas of a possible, I don't know about solution, but, you know, some background information about that social emotional learning. And with that, then Jeff wanted to share this from Rosen.
Right. This is brand new. This just came out probably not even 6-7 months ago. And again, one of the things that, you know, that Jeff Craven was asking us for was, can we find some new resources or some solutions that you may not be familiar with? And again, this one is a K-6, and it's based on the CASEL framework. So again, it ties into the 5 components of what the framework is for CASEL. And then it also breaks it down into the subcategories within that framework for self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Again, it's a 30-week curriculum that, you know, is great for K-6. It comes in a kit form, like you can see over to the right, where the little boxes have the books in it. It's literacy-based. So if you're looking for a literacy-based solution that has books that go along with it, this is a great solution. And then they've also moved online so that it has a digital component where it has exactly the same thing that's in the kit in a digital solution as well. And again, if this is something that you have interest in, personally reach out to me and I can put you in contact with the people that you need to talk to do this with. But I can say that as I've been working with different districts and talking to different districts and service agencies in Pennsylvania, I have different service agencies in Pennsylvania that are taking this and they're buying it and then they're sharing it with their student services people, their the special ed people. And one of the things that we're hearing a lot also is the fact that students are struggling right now with, am I going to stay in school? What's this mask wearing? What's the social distancing? How do I handle that? How do I handle, self-management when I'm in the classroom, or what is the social awareness component that we have to be involved with? So again, the CASEL framework is a framework that came out recently, and it's what most social emotional programs are based on. Again, this is just one. There are several out there. There's lots of different programs that are available for districts to look at and use. But again, I just wanted to throw this one out there for you to take a look at because it is a new one.
Great, thank you. So I don't know if any of you were able to listen to the webinar from AESA from Dr. Fisher, from Douglas Fisher on his distance learning playbook. It's a pretty short webinar. I think it might be 30 to 40 minutes, but I'm telling you, it's spot on. I thought that Mr. I can't remember if he's a doctor or not. My guess is he is. That Dr. Fisher was sharing was so helpful and gave some really good designed strategies to use for our playbook of distance learning. So I would encourage you to go out and get a copy of that. I did just get it on Kindle also, so I got it for a greatly reduced price on Kindle versus the paperback or the paper version. So if you're into so several of you did a full day and it was great. Yay, awesome. So share with us from Nebraska what you may have learned from Dr. Fisher, or was it Dr. Hattie?
Fisher.
Anyone from Nebraska want to share?
Peg, you guys can unmute. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yes, it was awesome. Doug Fisher started the day, and then a colleague joined, and I've drawn a blank on his name right now. I could check my notes. And he was equally engaging, and then Doug Fisher got back on. So it was great. And then our ESU PDO had Karen Flores from Corwin that did a two half days basically of visible learning last week, and some of the same ideas were promoted. And so we're hoping for with the ESUs to carry both of those learnings forward.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Peg. Yeah, the webinar was very engaging, like you said, and I thought that the text had some wonderful suggestions. So I would, so Dorian got the Kindle version too. Well, it's awesome. I didn't even notice you were on, Dorian. So awesome. Very good. Okay. So now I think it's time to check what you're saying about strategies that are working for you in your agencies and what seems to be maybe some trends. So what do you got for us to share, Jeff?
Hang on just a second here. Do I get back to that page?
All right. Nope. Next one over. There you go.
And I actually have to go in this one.
You have to edit. You can just go to, okay.
And responses.
There you go. Super. So we have 4. All right. So
Positions. We have descriptions of locations.
PLC is working together to create content. I like that idea. Can whoever shared that, are you willing to give us more details on how you're structuring your PLC?
Not sure if these are in sequential order, but that would have been the OAISD region room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure.
Okay, all right. So there's someone that's doing a lot of Zoom meetings with their librarians. Very good.
And I'll actually talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a resource that's an excellent resource for librarians as well a little bit later on.
So implementing a content delivery system, which it must like a big platform, right? A combination of Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, Seesaw, those kinds of things to get a common platform for schools. So students and parents aren't going to 10 different locations. That's great. I love that idea, almost like a landing page, and then being able to branch off if need be from that landing page. I love that. ESU 7, this is Otis. A list of considerations for district administrators to think of, very good. One of his colleagues, Brooke Cavan, and himself shared resources over 3 weeks, considered including content delivery system, prioritization of standards, learning expectations, excellent. Online lesson planning format, grading practices, and our pre-K2, and how do we do that? So Otis, is there any specifics that, some of the success that you found from having those conversations that you can share with us?
Well, it's just kind of consolidated some of the, parents aren't having to go to 15 different places. What's nice with the CARES Act dollars is there is now a statewide Canvas buy. Going through some of that several times. We still have some schools in ESU 7 that are using Classroom. We have a lot of K2, PK2 using Seesaw just because it's easier for kids. But having that common platform so that they only have a kind of a one-stop shop is really, really helpful for those teachers and for students so that they kind of know what's going on and it's one, like I said, it's just a one place. That prioritization is always good. To know what was going on. And we kind of were like, what did they miss fourth quarter that they're going to need first quarter? What are those top things so that they could get some of that top down? But then this has really brought about grading practices, conversations. How are we grading with things too? So it's all opened up a lot more conversations within districts and making people really look back and think of what they're doing.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Otis. Yeah, all great ideas. Super. So we'll add a link to these responses in our slide deck so that you can check out the NAMTech users' responses of structures and successes, as well as have access to the global resources. So, all right, I think you're next here, Jeff, talking about considerations for COVID.
Let's go back to the presentation.
Yep, I think you're there.
All
Oh,
right.
okay, all right, awesome.
And so one of the things that I was looking for also was, what are some considerations that you need to take into effect when you're talking with your districts and to, make a decision about what's going to work and what's not going to work. And in doing our research, Beth and I came across this Teach for America website, and they kind of go through this list of 9 components that you really should, make as a priority probably. But let go of the perfection and bring back system lens to instruction again. And that's one of the things that you're going to find with the social and emotional learning side of stuff too, is that they're saying, in a virtual world, it's much more difficult to have very high expectations for students to show that success. Not that we don't want expectations, but again, putting pressure on students is one of the things that really causes students to really struggle internally with that. And then consider your students as a whole people, and making sure that they feel like they're part of the whole process and they're part of the class, and not getting them to buy into that. Setting up your online system, and if possible, practice before school closes, or practice when you have time. A lot of teachers today have never worked in an online environment. They've never worked in a virtual environment of any kind. And so having them now, after, especially some of your seasoned teachers who are, they've been doing this forever, and it's like, oh my gosh, now I got to teach totally different. And how do I do that? So that's a real thing to do. And I know that some districts are providing professional development around how do you instruct in just a virtual environment, just one-day workshops or so forth. And then you have to consider equity of access. And again, this is a real big player, because all schools, across the nation are struggling with this as to how do we provide equal access and equitable access to the technology, as well as to the quality of and engaging instructional delivery. Not all teachers are going to have that quality of education that other teachers may have. And again, is that fair to everybody? No, but we have to look at that and say, okay, how can we correct that? How can we move forward from there? And then we have to go back and we have to make sure that our teachers are using those great, strong teaching practices and principles that that they're so familiar with, and try to build them into those online learning components there, and design collaborative and independent learning opportunities. So again, having them work in groups, breakout sessions if they have, breakout capabilities, or working independently for learning those opportunities that go forth. Multiple forms of communication to and from students and families. Again, a lot of us in the past were maybe using email, maybe we're using Twitter, maybe we're using some sort of online, there's online programs that you can use for doing, sending homework assignments home, or using Google, or creating teachers accounts. And again, I heard, in Nebraska, you're doing a statewide purchase for, Canvas. So again, I know that in Pennsylvania, we have a statewide pricing for a couple of programs. We do Schoology and we do Canvas as well. So again, it depends on what, you're looking to do there. But again, providing that systems that are stable and that everybody is familiar with or gets familiar with. And then the one thing that I want to interject here is that the one thing that we're kind of missing, a lot of it, how do we help the parents? Okay, because up to this point, when students came to school, it was the student and the teacher interaction. But how do we help the parents become that mediary between the students and the parents, or between the parents and the teacher? Because what's happening is the teacher may make an assignment and the student struggles. They don't know what to do. And so there needs to be some sort of a parent portal or a parent component that's going to be able to provide them with what's next steps that you need to do as a parent if your child is struggling. And then consider creating a private social media account just for your class. Okay, and again, this would be something that you'd have to talk about and make sure that it meets the CIPA requirements and all of your filtering requirements for social networking or social media components. But again, it is something that you may want to consider, that it's private, it's just for your kids, and that your kids can either communicate through this, or that communicate just with the teacher back and forth with the students, or the parents can communicate just with the teacher as well. And then carve out reflection time for yourself on this process. And getting teachers to reflect and think back, okay, did that lesson work well? You know, and that's what we did when we came into the educational field was, you know, we taught a lesson, we taught, and then self-reflect on this is, you know, after the lesson's over, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? What could be better? And make some notes on that. And then get your teachers to reflect around those categories. So those are just some considerations that Teach for America had put out. And I thought they were pretty good ones to share here today. So back to school steps to help reopen schools too. And this one came from the Atlantic, which is an archive of great components as well. And they put out 8 steps to reopening your schools. And so again, they talked about shielding the most vulnerable. And we'll talk about those students that are most vulnerable here in a few minutes. And how can we help them and help them become successful with that too. Reducing the risk wherever possible. And I know every school right now is looking at, okay, how do we do our PPE? How do we do social distancing? How are we doing mask requirements? And again, different states have different requirements. In Pennsylvania, all the schools are required to do a health survey and a health plan and submit that to the Department of Ed for approval before they could even say we're going to even do, you know, face-to-face with that. So we've got to keep that virus out, wear a mask, and then reduce mixing among students and staff. I have a friend of mine who she's in New Mexico actually, and her husband's a principal at a school in New Mexico. Now, New Mexico, their districts are very big land-wise, but population-wise are very small. And they've actually gone to 5 students per teacher to try to do this, reducing and mixing students and staff together. And then I also saw previously, I saw that Sarah posted something about, you know, librarians are being pushed into the classroom now. You know, different specials areas are being pushed into the classroom now to support teachers and work with the teachers when they are in the face-to-face environment. So again, we have to keep that mixture going. And how do we do that? And principals and administrators are really struggling with this because there's across the board, there is everything under the sun that you can think of that goes along with that. And then reducing occupancy, especially indoors. Some of the schools are working where they have nice weather right now. They're going to be able to work outside. Kids are going out. Teachers are taking their classrooms outside and working outside. If that works for that district, you look at your inner city schools, it's a little difficult. You're going to go out and work on the sidewalk or something. So it's, looking at your environment, looking where you are, and then take a look at that. And then implement those new health and safety protocols that the district put in place. And we always see on the social media that somebody's out there throwing their fists up in the air and having a fit that they're having to do these social and healthy and safety protocols. And I think that we just have to accept that, and we have to move forward and get everybody on the same page with that. And then prepare for different cases. I know I can tell you, we opened up a couple schools around me opened up face-to-face, and they were open for about 2 or 3 weeks. And now they've got different schools. One has a middle school, one has a high school, but they have a number of cases in it. And those cases now require the school district by our state mandates that they have to shut those schools for, about a week or 2 and quarantine those students at home. So that now look what that brings on to the teacher. The teacher was prepared to teach face-to-face. They got all going for the school year, and boom, just like that, they were notified on a Friday. Monday, by the way, you're now teaching virtually. So look at the stress that put onto the teachers for them to be able to say, oh my gosh, how do I move forward from this? What do I do next? So we've got this tremendous stress put on teachers to look at how they're going to do their instructional delivery. So I want to talk a little bit too about accommodations in remote learning. And so first, Beth, is this yours? You wanted to talk about this one? So I'll turn it back.
I was going to interrupt you, but I thought, well, let's hear what you have to say. So I am going to add a link in the chat here. This is a video from Canvas, one of their videos that their weekly highlights or whatever. But it's the video itself is talking about how do we make communication stick, right? And what are our best forms of communication? So when we think about working with families, again, AESA had their leadership summit or their summer leadership conference, and it was all virtual. So I attended some of that. And some of the breakouts were about how do we connect with our families that have special needs students? So how do we connect with our families for IEPs, and how do we check in with them? And so if you jump to the next slide, I just quickly added this slide. In this, you missed.
I don't have the copy that you have.
Don't. That's all right.
I can.
In the webinar, okay, from Canvas, the discussion was about what are our best forms of communication, right? So how do we best communicate with people to make most of the impact? And obviously we know that face-to-face is number one, but quite frankly, I was surprised to know that telephone is way up there with number two. Me personally, I can't stand to talk on the phone. I hate making phone calls, but if we're trying to connect to our families because of, students may be falling behind, or we're needing to check in with those special needs students for whatever reason, getting on the telephone is really a high process for having that interaction and getting, building that relationship, right? Texting is down underneath emails, so emails is next, and then texting. So texting is my preferred method, even above email. So I have to take a step back and think about, if I am trying to connect with, some of my families, which is critical, so important. And again, that's what the breakout sessions from AESA were saying, that we can't just try to connect with our students, but we've got to bring in our families. We've got to engage those families and support them as well, that we need to get on the telephone, right? And maybe we need to stop by their house and just not, with a mask and have a face-to-face conversation. But obviously at an agency level, we're not going to do that. But just thinking about how to connect with those, with that population, we've got to build those relationships with the students, or with the parents and the families. So then we wanted to think about, so what tools? I mean, we're all about media and technology, right? So what tools have you guys been advocating, especially for our special needs students? And I just threw in some things, but you, again, are those experts. And, have you been using something that has really helped support with maybe accommodations or whatever with our special needs students? So again, I just listed some things that I thought were, tools that, we've been promoting for a few years, but what have you seen? And you could enter in the chat, or if anybody wants to raise your hand and go for it. Yeah. Or did I get the list right? which
I don't think you got them all, Beth, but I think that, it's hard to think sometimes when you're in a webinar like this.
Yeah. So please go. Okay. Ed Puzzle. Very good, Molly. Yes, definitely. Where you can add some of that. Immersive Reader is now built into Canvas. Craig. Oh, can you tell us more about that?
I know our special ed people think it's a great thing, but a lot of assistive technology features that were created by Microsoft, and they've built that functionality is now built into Canvas.
Cool. Great. And Peg said OneNote. So are you saying that Immersive Reader is also part of OneNote? Is that what you're saying, Peg?
Yeah, that was what I was saying when Craig mentioned Immersive Reader. And I don't know that much about it, but Jason's played around with it quite a bit.
Okay, super. And then Read and Write for Google. Can you share with us how to use, or what Read and Write for Google would provide?
It just adds some of that. You can read the text from a Google Doc or a page. You can annotate on there. You can build vocabulary lists.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice tool. And maybe you guys maybe know more about how it's updated, but when I first was trying it, it was free for teachers, but it would be a paid for students. But it's definitely a good tool.
Sure.
It'd probably be a lot like the Immersive Reader piece in the OneNote that works with Google.
Excellent. Thank you. And Don Johnston tools. Jennifer, can you share with us the Don Johnston tools?
Yes, hi. So Johnston has a series of tools that are for purchase. I believe that they're extensions, Chrome extensions, and for example, Snap and Read. So these are tools that allow like any PDF or any even a web page to be read out loud to students. And you can change fonts and kids can highlight them. There's ways to get rid of some distracting text or features that are on pages. Co-writer, which supports kids when they're writing. So I know that many of our teachers have found the Don Johnston suite of tools to be very helpful.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. That's great. So do you want to talk about from the solicitor point of view, Jeff?
Well, one of the things that I did was, I needed to, helping other districts and other solutions as a service agency set up online learning. And so, one of the things that I had a concern with was how do I meet those, how do I as a service agency, if I'm providing the online service to the districts and the students are, the district is paying me to find that vendor, work with that vendor, provide online learning courses for their students. Now the student still stays involved in their class, but how do I deal with the IEPs and the 504 plans from those students? And so I had a solicitor come in and talk to us. And basically what he said was, he said that, the district needs to support any students that have an IEP or 504, that the service agency is not the one that's going to be responsible for this, and making sure that the district is very much aware of that. And then also to make sure that any students that have had a prior placement, that the students and the districts reconvene the IEP team to make sure that they have a meeting to discuss about whether the specially designed instruction, curriculum modifications, adaptations are going to be relevant to working in an online environment. And if they're not, then we have to look at a different alternative as to, okay, are we going to bring just our special needs students back into the classroom in small groups to provide them with the one-on-one and accommodations that they may need at that point. Then students also, requiring direct instructional service have to have it, maybe put into the home. And maybe we're sending somebody out to the home. Now that gets to be a little tricky because some homes may not be a place that you want to send a teacher to. You might want to send somebody along with them to make sure that they're getting the supports of online learning that they need. And then the district needs to still stay and have somebody be the case manager. Whoever that may be in the district, whoever it may have been, still needs to be that case manager, responsible for, complying with the requirements of the state and federal laws, responsible for ongoing development and revisions to monitoring the IEP, and then making sure that the plans are implemented in whole or part, working with the online teachers to make sure that this online environment is for them, and discharging all of the duties under the law. So again, this was a nice paragraph that the attorney pulled together for us. I just thought I'd throw it up there, but it also gives some great talking points about making sure that if you're working with those IEP students in an online environment, these are some areas that you really need to make sure somebody is covering them and somebody's making sure that they're doing it. And even if it's just the district that's doing it on their own, they still need to make sure that they reconvene the IEP meeting and, and talk to them about, is this going to work for the student in this environment? So what are Jeff and Beth doing? So now we get a chance to talk a little bit about our collaborative. And so, like I said, Jeff Craven reached out to me and said, hey, Jeff, do you know Beth from Nebraska? I said, absolutely, I know Beth. Beth and I have been friends for quite a few years through NAMTech. I met Beth at NAMTech and AESA. And I don't know if we were in the personalized learning consortium together. We were doing open resources together. We were both doing online cyber solutions. So again, we kind of, our backgrounds were pretty much, collaborative already before we both retired. So what we did is we created JB for Jeff and Beth Consulting Associates, which is a consulting firm. And so Beth is, handling it from Nebraska, and I'm handling from Pennsylvania. But we are looking to bring in, other people that have been retired or somebody that may be looking for some part-time work to help us support some of the programs that we have going on with school districts that are reaching out to us. And so one of the things that we're doing is we have a website. It's JB Associates. And let me just jump out here real quick to it. That didn't do it for some reason. Hang on a minute. And
so Jeff Craven told us we could do a little pitch.
yeah, he told us we could do a little pitch. So here's our website. And basically what we're doing is we're looking to come in and do strategic planning with districts, instructional modeling, policy procedures, professional development, and helping them talk about curriculum. And one of the things is that so many school districts want to have their teachers write all of their curriculum, okay? It's a great idea, but it is so difficult to do. And so again, being able to try to talk to districts and give them ideas about, hey, you know, there's a lot of vendors out there that will sell you content that's already developed for when you need to work in an online environment. And you can make modifications to this content to meet your specific needs. But then you also have to look at, is it going to meet the 504 plans? Is it going to meet the IEP plans? Is it going to be NCAA approved? Is it going to be aligned to your standards? Is it going to be, you know, is it an engaging solution, or is it just PDF after PDF? But again, I can tell you in Pennsylvania, we did a statewide agreement with Edgenuity to provide it for an extremely low price. And we have a lot of districts that are using that then as their platform for when they go to virtual, and the teachers can look at their scope and sequence and determine what is it that they've taught, what do they need to teach yet, and move forward with that. So this is our homepage, kind of gives the flyer there, a little bit about who we are. Then we have our programs, features, and again, we're looking at the curriculum, instructional models, policy, strategic planning, professional development resources. And again, if you go into our resource page, now again, this is something, if somebody has a great idea to show us and make this pretty, we're all open for it. I think Beth is looking at something, but we're all looking for ideas on how we can possibly make this better. It's basically a Google sheet at this point. But if you look at the strategic planning and you go to the bottom, I can tell you right down here at the bottom is a lot of the links from today's presentation were put into here. We have also pedagogical models. We have policy and procedures. We have professional development solutions. We have a lot of the curriculum solutions that may be being used out there. And then we've also started to put in some pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic resources. So again, a lot of different resources available through what we're doing. And then if you need to contact us, our contact information is right here, and you can send us a link on our form as well. So again, that's our plug for the JB, and we'll go on from there. Beth, did you want to add anything?
No, we're just, getting started and
Just
trying
getting
to
started.
figure out where we are and what to do. But so any suggestions or thoughts, please send our way.
Yeah, and we're pretty excited that, because a lot of the, other service agencies, collaboratives and BOCES and stuff have been reaching out already. So, we're willing to work across the country, wherever the need may be. And I know Beth is working with AESA as well with some stuff. So she's got her, fingers in with AESA as well. So again, it's very small. We're not looking to make this a major event. We're just kind of saying, hey, we're two retired folks. We have recently got out of this field, and right now with the pandemic, everything, our field is something that a lot of districts and a lot of service agents are saying, hey, we could use some help with this. And so that's what we're seeing happening. As I said, I work for Rosen, and I wanted to share two solutions to you that, again, you may not be familiar with. Rosen Lightsail, and you may be familiar with Lightsail. They've been around for a little bit, but about a year and a half ago now, Rosen Publishing did a strategic alliance with Lightsail, and so Rosen went in and they redid the entire Lightsail program. Basically, it's tied to the Metametrics Lexile framework that the students are doing an assessment. So you're going to get a reading assessment that determines what their reading levels are. And again, it talked about some of the things with a lot of you talking about the immersive reader. They have what's called a personalized reader with 60 personalized features, which just gives you 1 line, 3 lines, 6 lines, changing the color, changing the font. But it's also extremely good for autism, dyslexia. They've got the dyslexia fonts in there. Students that have ADHD, students that have just reading difficulties. And basically, this is a 3 through 12 solution that provides, all kinds of features for them to look at. And so what it does is it has Fluency Builder in it as well. And since this is a publishing company, they wanted to make sure that students could do the writing process. So they have what's called student authored books. And so students do the writing process where they work in the writing process between the teacher and goes back and forth. And then they can publish it to the classroom, to the district, or to the world, so that they can see it online with that. And then one of the things that they did too, which, and again, this is more of it's almost like an LMS, but whenever a student is in a book, the teacher can go into the dashboard, even if the student's working remotely from home, and they can see which, one of the things that as a teacher, when my students were working on a computer, I wanted to see what they were doing, even though I didn't I couldn't stand behind him and look over the shoulder. They have a feature that's built into this that when a student opens a book, it tells the teacher that they've opened the book, and the teacher can click and say, I want to follow along with the student. And as the student's reading through the book and answering the closed assessments or the comprehensive and free response questions in the book, the teacher can actually visually watch what the student's doing, typing, picking answers, going through the book forward, back and forth the pages. Just kind of really blew me away that was a feature that's in there. And again, they have a chat feature that allows just for chat between the students and the teacher, or just between the teacher and the classroom. So lots of features that were built into that. And then this one just came out in about 8 months ago. This is for your pre-K2 students. And this is a foundation literacy program. It has over 2,400 books in it right now. It has interactive phonics components built into it. And again, there just isn't anything in the K2 solution for students that are looking to work in an online environment. And the teachers really can see what's going on. And I see we finally lost Beth, but she had to jump off, and I hope I didn't give her a chance to say goodbye. But she did have to jump off. She has another meeting that starts at 4 o'clock to go to. But if you have any questions, you're certainly welcome to put them in the chat, and we'll get back to you when there's. But going back to Level Up, Level Up is a 700 Spanish and bilingual. The beautiful part with this is a great solution for in-class or virtual or blended, because Rosen owns all the books in this solution. All the books can be printed in mini books or half-size books or full-page books. So again, a really nice solution there. It has, like I said, the interactive phonics solution, as well as it has a gaming environment for rewarding the students to go with this. So again, if you'd like a little more information, you can reach out to me on that. So I think we're about at the end of our hour. But we wanted to open it up to questions at this time. So again, your mics can be opened up. If you have questions, you're welcome to jump on. We thank you for participating, but let's hear if anybody has anything they'd like to say. Nobody wants to say anything.
Well, hey, just a quick reminder, our leadership summit this year will actually be held virtual. Surprise, surprise. But that'll be held, I believe it's Wednesday, December 2nd. I know it's either the 1st or the 2nd on a Wednesday. Stay tuned. I'll be sending more information out for that. Got some great speakers. We have a presenter from NASA SpaceX collaboration talking about that, as well as the Florida STEM Connect, which they have a real interesting, especially with COVID and so forth, how the biomed is working with K-12 universities and so forth. So have some great speakers, and it'd always be good to catch up. And I guess on a positive note is, we'll be able to have more ESAs and their staffs participate too. So look forward to seeing you there.
Okay, thank you everybody, and have a safe and wonderful day the rest of the day.
Okay, keep healthy. Thanks, Jeff and Beth.
Yeah, I'll have to pass the Beth on to Beth. We talk pretty regularly, so it'll be good for her. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Have a great day, everybody.